When a man begins to like you as more than a friend, the very earliest shift often happens in how much mental and emotional space you occupy for him. This isn't about grand declarations or dramatic gestures. It's about priority. Psychologically, attraction reorganizes attention. What once sat on the periphery of his mind slowly moves toward the center. You begin to show up in his thoughts when you're not around, and that internal shift inevitably leaks into his behavior. He may not say, "I like you," but his actions start telling the story long before his words ever do. One of the clearest signs of this shift is consistency. A man who sees you only as a friend may enjoy your company, but his engagement is situational. When he likes you more than a friend, his interest becomes steady rather than sporadic. He looks for reasons to check in, to continue conversations, to maintain momentum. This isn't about neediness. It's about intentional presence. He doesn't just respond when it's convenient, he initiates. That initiation is crucial because it reflects desire, not obligation. From a psychological standpoint, we initiate contact with what we value. What we value feels worth the effort. You may notice that his attention sharpens around you. He remembers small details you mentioned in passing, things that wouldn't register unless he was truly listening. This kind of recall isn't accidental. It signals emotional encoding, the brain's way of flagging information as important. When someone matters to us, our mind files details about them differently. He may bring up something you said weeks ago, reference your preferences, or anticipate your reactions. This level of attunement suggests that you are no longer just part of his social environment. You are becoming personally significant. Philosophically, this shift represents a movement from companionship to investment. Friendship is comfortable, but attraction introduces vulnerability. When a man starts to care more deeply, he becomes subtly protective of the connection. He may be more thoughtful with his words, more aware of how his actions affect you. There's an internal calculation happening. How do I show up in a way that keeps this bond intact? That awareness doesn't exist at the same level in purely platonic relationships. You might also sense a change in emotional availability. He opens up a bit more, shares opinions or experiences that carry personal weight. This isn't oversharing, it's selective disclosure. When attraction grows, people instinctively test emotional closeness. He's not just passing time, he's building intimacy, even if he doesn't consciously label it that way. Emotional openness is one of the most reliable indicators that a line has been crossed from friendship into something deeper. What makes this sign so powerful is that it's hard to fake over time. Anyone can be charming for a moment, but sustained attention, consistency, and emotional presence require genuine interest. These behaviors emerge naturally when someone is emotionally invested. They don't require rehearsing or strategy. The real takeaway here is this: when a man likes you more than a friend, you'll feel a quiet but unmistakable shift in how present he is. You'll notice that you matter, not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily. And that steadiness is the clearest signal of all. If you pay attention to where his time, attention, and emotional energy consistently go, you'll rarely be confused about how he truly feels. One of the clearest signs that a man likes you as more than a friend is how consistently he prioritizes you, especially in subtle, everyday ways that don't look dramatic on the surface, but carry deep psychological weight. Attraction isn't just about big gestures, it's revealed through patterns. When a man's interest goes beyond friendship, you'll notice that you begin to occupy a stable, recurring place in his mental and emotional landscape. You are not an afterthought, you are a consideration. Psychologically, priority is one of the strongest indicators of desire. We instinctively allocate time, energy, and attention to what matters most to us. A man who likes you more than a friend doesn't just show up when it's convenient or when nothing better is happening. He checks in, follows up, and remembers details, not because he's trying to impress you, but because his mind naturally returns to you. He recalls things you mentioned casually weeks ago. He asks about outcomes that matter to you. This isn't politeness, it's cognitive investment. You are taking up space in his thoughts when you're not around. What's important here is consistency, not intensity. Someone can make grand gestures and still be emotionally inconsistent. But a man who genuinely likes you more than a friend shows reliability. He makes time even when life is busy. He adjusts plans rather than disappearing. He doesn't leave you guessing where you stand because his behavior creates a quiet sense of continuity. From a philosophical standpoint, this reflects value alignment. He is integrating you into the rhythm of his life, not treating you as an optional add-on. This also shows up in how he protects the connection. A man who sees you as just a friend may drift in and out without much concern, but when his feelings are deeper, he becomes more intentional. He doesn't want misunderstandings to linger. He clarifies, he repairs, he notices when something feels off between you and tries to restore equilibrium. That instinct to maintain emotional harmony is a strong sign that the bond matters to him in a way friendship alone usually doesn't require. There's also an emotional asymmetry that begins to emerge. He becomes more attuned to your moods than to those of others. Your approval, your disappointment, your happiness carry more weight. This doesn't mean he becomes anxious or needy. Rather, your emotional state starts to matter to him on a personal level. He cares how interactions with you land. That level of emotional responsiveness is rarely present in purely platonic dynamics. Crucially, this priority is not performative. He's not constantly announcing how important you are. In fact, it often shows up in quiet, almost invisible ways, choosing to sit next to you, looping you into future conversations, or making small accommodations without being asked. These behaviors are difficult to fake over time because they require sustained attention and genuine care. When you step back and look at the pattern, the message becomes clear. A man who likes you more than a friend doesn't just enjoy your company, he makes space for you mentally and practically. He integrates you into his life rather than keeping you on the periphery. And the real takeaway is this: don't judge interest by isolated moments. Watch where he consistently places his time, energy, and attention. Because when a man prioritizes you without needing a reason, he's already telling you through his actions that you're more than just a friend. One of the clearest signs that a man likes you as more than a friend is how intentionally he creates opportunities to be part of your world. This goes far beyond casual check-ins or group hangouts. When his interest shifts from friendly to romantic, his behavior subtly but decisively changes. He starts looking for reasons to be present in your life, not just when it's convenient, but when it's meaningful. This isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistent, deliberate inclusion. Psychologically, this comes down to emotional investment. We don't invest time, energy, and attention equally in everyone. When a man likes you more than a friend, his brain begins prioritizing you. You'll notice he remembers details that others forget, things you mentioned in passing, your schedule, what excites you, what stresses you out. This is not accidental. Memory is selective, and what we remember reveals what we value. His effort to stay connected is a reflection of how much mental space you occupy. What's especially revealing is that this effort often shows up before anything romantic is explicitly stated. He may initiate conversations more often, check in just to see how you're doing, or find ways to extend interactions that could have ended quickly. A text doesn't need a reason, a call doesn't need an agenda. These are small but powerful indicators he's seeking emotional closeness, not just friendly interaction. Friends connect when there's a shared activity. Romantic interest seeks connection for its own sake. From a philosophical standpoint, this behavior speaks to intention. Friendship is generally passive, easy, low pressure, and situational. Romantic interest introduces direction. When a man is drawn to you, his actions begin to move with purpose. He wants to know where you stand, how you feel, and whether there's space for him in your life. Even if he hasn't fully articulated this to himself, his behavior is already answering the question. He is leaning in. Another important distinction. Xian lies in consistency. Friendly interest can be warm one moment and distant the next without emotional consequence. Romantic interest, however, seeks continuity. You'll notice that his effort doesn't disappear when circumstances change. He doesn't vanish when he's busy or only reach out when it suits him. Instead, he finds ways, sometimes imperfect, sometimes subtle, to maintain the connection. This consistency is one of the hardest things to fake because it requires ongoing emotional energy. There's also a vulnerability embedded in this effort. When he prioritizes you, he risks rejection. He risks caring more than you do. And yet, he does it anyway. That willingness to risk emotional exposure is one of the strongest indicators that his feelings run deeper than friendship. Men don't repeatedly put themselves in that position unless the emotional reward feels worth it. Ultimately, when a man likes you more than a friend, his effort tells the story before his words ever do. He shows you through presence, consistency, and intentional connection that you matter. The key is not to overanalyze isolated moments, but to observe patterns over time. When his actions consistently pull you closer into his life, the message is clear. Attraction doesn't hide in effort, it reveals itself there. If you pay attention to where he chooses to invest, you'll rarely be left confused about how he truly feels. One of the clearest signs that a man likes you more than a friend is how consistently he creates emotional priority for you. This isn't about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It's about where you sit in the hierarchy of his attention. When a man's feelings move beyond friendship, you stop being interchangeable. You become someone he makes space for, mentally, emotionally, and practically. Even when life is busy, psychologically, attention is one of the most honest currencies we have. We give it instinctively to what matters most. A man who sees you as just a friend may enjoy your company, but his focus remains diffuse. He responds when it's convenient. He engages when nothing more compelling is pulling at him. But when attraction deepens, something shifts. You start to feel his consistency. He checks in without a clear agenda. He remembers small details you mentioned weeks ago. He follows up not because he has to, but because his mind naturally returns to you. This is not accidental. From a cognitive standpoint, emotional attachment increases mental rehearsal. When he likes you more than a friend, you occupy more of his internal narrative. You're not just present when you're physically together, you show up in his thoughts when you're not around. That's why he reaches out with no practical reason. That's why he circles back to conversations, ideas, or moments you shared. His brain has tagged you as significant. Philosophically, this kind of prioritization reflects value. We prioritize what we respect, desire, and fear losing. A man who emotionally prioritizes you is revealing something profound. You matter enough to disrupt his default patterns. He adjusts. He makes room. He shows flexibility with time, energy, and effort. This doesn't mean he drops everything for you, but it does mean you are no longer optional. You might notice this in subtle ways. He becomes more reliable. His communication steadies. He doesn't disappear for long stretches without explanation. Even when he's busy, there's an underlying sense of continuity. You feel held in his awareness. This consistency is key because it's extremely difficult to fake over time. Anyone can be attentive once. Few can sustain it without genuine feeling. Importantly, emotional priority is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up quietly through follow-through and presence. He listens differently. He engages with your emotions, not just your stories. When something matters to you, it starts to matter to him. And when you pull back, he notices, not in a possessive way, but in an attentive one. This is where many people get confused. They look for intensity instead of priority, but intensity can exist without depth. Priority cannot. A man who likes you more than a friend integrates you into his life rhythm. You become part of how he thinks, plans, and feels, not an accessory to it. The most telling question, then, is not what does he say, but where do I show up in his life? If the answer is consistently, thoughtfully, and with care, that's not friendship behavior, that's emotional investment. And the reflection to leave with is this: when someone shows you through their time, attention, and consistency that you matter, believe the behavior. Attraction that is real doesn't rush to impress, it quietly chooses you again and again. One of the most telling signs a man likes you more than a friend is how he invests his time and attention. It's not about grand gestures or constant texts. It's about consistency and intentionality. When a man is genuinely interested, he doesn't just let interactions happen. He actively creates opportunities to connect. He understands, often instinctively, that time is the most valuable thing he can offer, and he prioritizes sharing it with you. This is different from casual friendship, where interactions can be sporadic, convenience-driven, or surface level. Attraction changes the dynamic. Suddenly, spending time together becomes meaningful, deliberate, and emotionally charged. You might notice it in simple ways. He calls or texts not just out of habit, but to genuinely check in, share something he knows you'll care about, or continue a conversation that matters to both of you. He remembers your schedule, your preferences, your interests. If there's a conflict, say he's busy with work or other commitments, he finds creative ways to bridge the gap, whether it's sending a thoughtful message, suggesting a small meetup, or scheduling time that works for both of you. This is the hallmark of someone who doesn't just want to be in your life casually, but who values being present in a way that matters. Another subtle yet powerful indicator is his desire to engage in shared experiences. Men who are attracted beyond friendship seek moments that create memories together. Coffee dates, walks, small adventures, or even collaborative projects. These experiences aren't accidental. They're deliberate spaces where connection deepens. They reflect a recognition that shared time strengthens emotional bonds and that the investment of attention isn't just transactional, it's relational. It's also worth noting that men who are truly interested will respect your boundaries while still making the effort to connect. The balance here is critical. He doesn't overwhelm you, but neither does he vanish without reason. His presence is a consistent thread in your life, an acknowledgement that you occupy a space in his thoughts and priorities. This consistency, this deliberate engagement, is one of the most reliable indicators that his interest extends beyond friendship. In a broader sense, prioritizing communication and time together reflects emotional intelligence. It shows that he understands relationships require investment, that attraction is more than physical chemistry. It's about showing up, paying attention, and fostering connection. It's a sign of respect, care, and a desire for intimacy, all packaged in everyday actions that may seem subtle but are profoundly revealing. In conclusion, when a man consistently makes time for you, communicates thoughtfully, and actively seeks shared experiences, it's not just courtesy, it's a signal of genuine attraction. The way he prioritizes you speaks volumes about how he feels inside, revealing an emotional investment that goes far beyond friendship. Observe these patterns carefully, because they are the quiet but undeniable ways he shows he wants you in his life, not just as a friend, but as someone truly significant. One of the clearest signs a man likes you more than a friend is the way he begins to reveal his inner world to you. Emotional transparency is not something men offer casually. It is reserved for those they feel a deep connection with, for those they trust, and for those they are genuinely drawn to. When a man allows himself to be vulnerable, to share thoughts, fears, and feelings that he wouldn't otherwise disclose, it's a profound indication that he values the bond he shares with you. This isn't about grand declarations or dramatic confessions. It's in the small, subtle moments where his guard is down, where his authentic self emerges. You may notice that he starts to open up about things he normally keeps private, his dreams, insecurities, or past experiences. Perhaps he talks about moments that shaped him, moments that reveal both his strength and his fragility. What's important is not just the content, but the intention behind it. He is signaling that he trusts you with his inner world, that he sees you as someone safe and significant enough to handle the real him. In friendships, this kind of transparency is usually limited or surface level, but attraction pushes a man to show the layers beneath the everyday persona he presents to the world. Another indicator of emotional vulnerability is his willingness to admit mistakes or acknowledge moments of weakness in your presence. Men who are only interested in maintaining a friendly or superficial dynamic rarely take this risk, admitting vulnerability exposés, a part of themselves that could be judged or misunderstood. Yet, when he trusts you enough to reveal these moments, it's an unmistakable sign that he values your perspective and craves closeness beyond mere friendship. This isn't about him seeking pity, it's about him demonstrating authenticity and inviting you into his emotional landscape. Importantly, emotional transparency goes hand in hand with reciprocal engagement. A man who likes you more than a friend will not only share his feelings, but also actively listen to yours. He will create a space where mutual vulnerability feels safe and encouraged. These interactions cultivate a deeper bond, a sense of intimacy that distinguishes genuine attraction from platonic connection. When he invests emotionally in this way, it reflects both courage and commitment. He's choosing to connect at a level that is meaningful, intentional, and inherently personal. Ultimately, observing his emotional transparency offers insight into his true intentions. It is not the casual texts or shared jokes that reveal depth. It's the moments when he allows you to see him, really see him, beneath the social mask. This level of openness communicates trust, care, and a desire for a meaningful connection, signaling unequivocally that his interest extends far beyond friendship. In conclusion, when a man demonstrates emotional transparency and vulnerability, he is showing more than just affection. He is revealing that he sees you as integral to his life, someone worthy of his authentic self. Pay attention to these moments because they are the silent yet profound signals that he likes you more than a friend and that he is willing to take the emotional risk to make that connection real. Recognize them, honor them, and allow them to guide your understanding of the depth of his feelings.